Animations. Animations are key to making a game look good. And who doesn't want a game that looks good? I do. So we're going to walk through the steps of adding stuff. Let's make some things blow up, lasers, enemies, explosions, and get it applied to the parts of the game where it belongs. Let's get started. Now, before we get going on the animations, let's make sure that the bullet, the missile, the tank projectile is interacting with the enemy, right? We want to make sure that we can hit the enemy and the enemy is a goner. To do that, we don't need this on the screen anymore, our laser, so I'm just going to hit delete on that. To do that, we need to create an animation for our enemy, right? If the bullet's going to strike the enemy and the enemy is going to die, we want an animation. So I'm going to go to Assets, and we're going to have another folder, Create Folder, Animations. And let's get into here, and then I'm going to do Create Folder, Enemy. There we are, going in here, and now create animator controller and enemy controller, I'll call it. There we go. Now we need to be enemy, hello enemy, and I'm just going to clap some of these so we can see. I'm going to drag and drop it. Ta-da. All right, so now we have an animation controller. Let's add some animations. Down right there, and I'll have my enemy selected, and I am going to create explode. Let's go down here, sprites, and I think they have a few options. What's this one? That one, yes, I want to use that one. So let's go ahead and say multiple, edit the sprite, apply all that. And it looks like there are 7 of these, so let's slice it by count. There is 7 columns, there is 1 row, and slice. Yep, that is exactly what we needed. Apply. And with that done, we can just click all of these. I'm going to hold Shift to select all of them, drag them up here, and drop. I'm going to spread these out probably till about 20 seconds. Let's grab game and drop it down here so we can see. And hit play. And so that's what that animation will look like. If it's too fast or you're not exactly loving the look right away, I often will add just one more duplicate ending. Yeah, I'm liking that a bit better. Okay. And now we're actually just going to do an animation that is a single state or a single sprite for the default. You can create a walking animation. For this type of game, I don't need that, but it is available to you. And so add, nope, no. And if you get confused on these, I would just make sure you have enemy selected. It can get confusing and annoying when you click off. I'm just going to call this default and save. And all I'm doing here is boom. If you want to know what this looks like, shocking, I know. Okay. So with that set, let's go ahead and I'm going to drag game back up here. And now let's go to the animator of our sprite, or our game object. We don't want the entry point, the default point, to be explode, right? We want default to be the default. So what I'm going to do here is select this, and I'm just going to hit delete on my, oh, apparently not. Oh, it wants a new one. Okay, so I'm going to do make transition, click, and then set as layer default state. And we should just have one. Yep. And let me delete all those extras. All right. There we are. Default state and explode. For explode to work, if you play the animation, obviously you want the enemy to disappear afterwards. And it's somewhat frustrating to make that happen, honestly. So how we will do it is by adding a behavior. Now to do that, we're going to I have explode selected, and I'm going to click add behavior, and it is going to be a script, and I'm just going to title this destroy on exit. And that way, immediately after the animation runs, the enemy will be destroyed, will disappear on us. All right, let's go over to our assets, grab this guy, and scripts. Wrong guy. There we are. And there's a ton of stuff here. It looks terrifying. It's good info. We don't need it. So what we do need there we are, is onState enter, and we're going to override it. What we'll be doing is this is perfect. We need those parameters. We do not need this because we're going to destroy. So what this will do, destroy what? Well, the animator.gameObject, because remember, this is attached to an animation. So it's going to grab the animator, look at the game object. What's the game object? Oh yeah, the enemy. And then this is the time length that will wait. What's the length that will wait? Well, the state info, the length of the animation before it would destroy that animation. Let's save that. Now let's make sure that this actually gets triggered when the enemy gets hit with a bullet. So over to our enemy script, way down here, and private void on trigger, and make sure you did set the 2D collider as a trigger. We're going to use an if statement and then play to, well, play the animation. Actually, this is perfect. Now, we do need to make sure that we add this bullet tag. Let's save all of this and head back and go to our prefabs. To edit the prefab, click and open untagged bullet tag. So we had already created that. Of course, you can click add tag. I'm actually going to hit Control S to save. And let's see. And play. Boom. And there goes our enemy. Pretty cool. So we should be adding a score system, and we want an enemy army. So we want to turn our enemy into a prefab. So that's what's going to be next. For an enemy army, we would want them to have scary, terrifying lasers that actually impact us, and maybe even a little animation. So let's create a quick animation for the laser. I'm going to head over to animation. I'm going to create a new folder and then dive into it and create animate controller and laser controller. Boom. Let's go ahead then and go to our prefabs, go to our laser. I'm just going to drag this out here for ease. Animation. Boop, drop. Okay, so now we have a controller, and well, let's add actual animations. So animation, laser, create, and let's call this hit, I guess, or we could call it explode. Save that, and sprites. Nope, not HUD. Let's try effects. Ooh, or that. Nah, I'm liking this one. So, same thing here. Multiple. Sprite editor. Yes, apply. It's hard to see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think. 6 in one row. Looks good. And apply. Boop. And here we are, right? So we need this guy. I'm going to click all of these and drag them in. Going to pull them out to maybe 30 seconds. Let's try game down here again. Well, maybe. And see. I am really liking that. If you want it a bit smaller, it's kind of up to you, of course, but if you did, what I would do is go to the sprite. I think I'll make mine a bit smaller And pixels per unit, I don't know, maybe 125. Something like this. Let's see if I like that. That is looking good to me. Now we also need a default, so create new clip. And we could just do one frame. I'm actually going to do two. So our original laser is here, which is great. Wacha. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and do a duplicate for it. I guess I'll just click and hit Control D for duplicate. And here it is. I want to make this a bit of a different size to make it look like the laser is pulsing like lasers do in my head, at least. So here we are. And to make it a bit of a different size, I don't know, maybe I'll set that at 4. Let's check out what this is looking like. Not console, but game. Let me zoom in on it. Oh, this is the laser in general. I don't want to do the whole thing. I just want the sprite itself. So for the sprite itself, I'm going to do, let's see what 200 looks like. And you can kind of see what I mean by the pulse. I shrank this one down, right? If you go 50, if you want to make it larger, 50's way too much, maybe 80. And this will give it a pulse feel. And you can decide, obviously, for yourself how separate you would want it to be. If you want it more smooth, you would just create another one of these. Control D. Control D. And if I set this one to 80, maybe I set this to 90. And I would put this in between, something like this. And that gives it a bit of a smoother motion. Unapplied, okay. And I could even crunch them together a bit. So now I have a pulsing laser as well. Now let me get my game screen back up here. And what we're going to want to do is add the code for the impact of the laser on the player. And to do that, well, remember, we already have the code so that if the laser goes off the screen, it's destroyed. But we want it to, when it impacts the player, to play the animation and then destroy itself. Thankfully, we have a reusable chunk of code here, destroy on exit. Just as the player plays a exploding animation and then is destroyed, that's what we want the laser to do. So I'm going to just shrink this back down, and we're going to head into those animations. So here's our laser animation we got laid out here. Let's look at the animator. We don't want hit to be the default. We want default to be the default. Hit can just be over here on its own, actually. And what we do want with hit, though, is to add a behavior. And here it is. It's ready to go. Destroy on exit. And that way, when the hit animation plays, well, the laser will be destroyed afterwards. Since the idea of this is that an impact on the player's health, we're going to put that script for it inside of the script that is focused on the player. Now let's double check with the laser. We have, yep, capsule collider, and we want this to be 2. Okay, that's looking good. Now, let's make sure, double check with player as well. Render, yes. So we're going to need a collider. The box collider should be good for what the tank is. Let's double check though. Not game scene. There we are, yeah. So if the bullet hits, then we can fiddle with this a bit. Maybe we wanted a little more. That's not what I wanted, Control C. Maybe we wanted a bit smaller, but I'm actually really happy with this collider. All right, so then let's head into player. The player script, and we actually just had the Canon script. We don't have one for the actual bot, which is great because we can add it now. Player script. I could call it tank body as well. Great. And tidy that up. Assets. Player script goes into script. Go in player script. All right. Now, what we're looking to do at this moment is the on trigger. So for the tank, we do, on trigger. We can set these both to be on trigger. It's not required for this part of it, honestly, because we already have, actually, let's not. We already have it for the laser, but you do want to make sure you have a laser on trigger. Okay, now we're going to use a private, I'm just going to get rid of these for now. Private void on trigger enter. Oop, and it didn't give me 2D. There we are. And what we want is an if statement. Just if it's impacted, what did we just impact? So what are we doing? We're saying, okay, if collision game object tag, and we might need to tag the lasers too. So if the laser has collided with the player with the tank body, what happens? Well, the collision.game object get component. So we're saying this object attached to it. Okay, we got the game object. Get the component, its animator, and play the hit animation. Once hit plays, remember the laser will automatically be destroyed. So that should be good. I'm going to hit save on all of this. Let's double check and make sure our laser has a tag, and it does not. So now it does. Laser. And that's looking good. Let's go ahead and apply our overrides, apply all of these. And we can test. Let's make sure, okay, we do have a laser as bullet. Let's take a look at our layers, add sorting. I'm not going to. We want to be able to see the animation now that we have a bullet. Leave bullet where it is and have a new layer for laser. Or we could say laser is part of the HUD. I'd rather just have a new layer for it. Laser. I'm going to put it over player so we can see it blowing up on player. Let's head back here. And now let's, instead of having a bullet, laser, we're going to want to override and apply that to all. And then let's take a look at the animation itself for a sec. Hit. How long does this? So that is somewhat long for an exploding animation. I'm going to try a bit shorter of a time frame here because you just want it to kind of pop and disappear, not keep moving across the screen. Let's try that out. All right. And now let's test. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. And if we wanted to, we could even have the speed stop at the point of impact. Boosh. And to do that, we would just go ahead down here and laser. So the laser script, where is its speed? It's right here. The Y velocity is great. So what we can do is right here, collision game object get component animator. To make sure it stops on impact, we can do, I just control seed and I'm going to control V. Get component, the script, and the script is laser. Script dot Y velocity, and we're going to do equal to 0 F for a float. Let's save all this. And then at the point of impact, it goes kablooey. So we are going to want a whole army of robots after us. Otherwise, it wouldn't really be that fun of a game. So that's what we'll be working on next time, having multiple enemies in army so we can take on them and save the world. That was the crowd cheering for us. Yeah.